few days ago, there was a story in the Orange County Register by Martin Wiskel.
Martin Wiskel. He writes on politics for a long time there.
And Jerry Brown had come to Orange County, and reporters were peppering him with questions about the recall of that terrible state senator, Josh Newman, who provided the deciding vote to jack up your gas and car taxes by $100 billion over the next 20 years. And
Jerry Brown doesn't have a lot of patience. I mean, he is kind of like the get-off-my-lawn angry guy. And you can see his bald head and the veins in his head. So the question was posed that Republicans say you didn't have to raise taxes. All right?
There's other sources of money that you can use.
They even mentioned cap and trade.
Yeah. You take the global warming tax money and use them for roads.
Just to bother Jerry Brown. Maybe cut Caltrans positions.
3,500 engineers with nothing to do every day. 3,500 excess engineers.
Vince Fong came on the air. He's an assemblyman from Bakersfield, and he had a plan where they could use the sales tax on new car sales. They had a lot of ideas.
Well, there's many billions of extra dollars sloshing around in the system that weren't there even 5 years ago.
All these things were reasonable. But here's what Jerry Brown said to the Republican ideas to fix the roads without raising taxes. He actually used the term, the freeloaders. I've had enough of them. And that's the word we're focusing on. And apparently we're looking at internet stories running around about this effort to recall State Senator Josh Newman.
Well,
and the word freeloader is really starting to cling and get people worked up.
Steve Greenhut, who's a writer and he's got a think tank, right?
Yes, and he writes opinion pieces for the Register.
And there's a piece of the American Spectator. Steve Greenhut, the headline on his story is Revolt of the California Freeloaders.
He writes, when normal people talk about freeloaders, they're usually referring to the assorted welfare dependents, scammers, and yes, public employees who game the system to do as little productive work as possible and receive as many taxpayer-supplied benefits as they can muster. In California, this is true too, freeloading is an art form, but the term is largely verboten. We don't want to be accused of insensitivity or other attitudes like that. But then Jerry Brown used the word when he talked about it. And he said, the freeloaders, I've had enough of them. Brown was there defending the big tax increase.
So we're freeloaders, the taxpayers, the American citizens. We told you before how 14 million, over one-third of California's residents are now on Medi-Cal. Many of them are here illegally. But we're called freeloaders by Jerry Brown. What's interesting about Greenhut's story, too, is, and he's more on the inside than we are, the recall effort has gotten under the Democratic leadership's skin, and for good reason. It's likely to succeed, and it will cost Democrats their supermajority in the Senate if it does. Without a supermajority, it's a tougher process for the majority to pursue its favorite pastime, raising taxes on the people they view as freeloaders. You know the drill. If California taxpayers and employers get to keep more of our own money, we're being selfish.
Of course.
So I think this should be the revenge of the freeloaders, the revolt of the freeloaders, the rebellion of the freeloaders. Because we do pay the highest gas taxes and the highest sales taxes and the highest income taxes in the entire United States of America. And to be called freeloaders because we've had it up to here?
He quotes a woman by the name of Kira Davis, who wrote for the Red State blog. If you live in California, have a job, and pay taxes, Governor Jerry Brown would like you to know that you're a freeloader, and he's tired of your complaining. This isn't much of an overstatement if one looks closely at the rest of the Brown quotation. It's clear who he's talking about. They have a president that doesn't tell the truth, and they're following suit, he said, criticizing activists working to recall State Senator Josh Newman.
So wait a second. Are you telling me that anyone in the state who didn't vote for Trump wants these gas and car taxes raised?
That's right. They're
to
trying
such
to say
excessive levels?
It's only that little Trump crowd that's doing this. That's what he's trying to say.
So the Trump crowd are freeloaders, but there's nobody else upset.
It's the oddest choice of words I've seen in a long time, and Jerry Brown comes up with weird stuff, but to call the working people of the state that pay the taxes freeloaders...
That's what he thinks.
I didn't get it at all.
No, if you want to keep your own money and not give it to who they say deserves it, you're a freeloader. It's bizarre, sick thinking, but this is the moment where people have to say, enough. You went too far. And it's real easy to recall somebody.
And by the way, that's why we're doing the Josh Newman recall. He's in a district where it looks like it's easy to pick him off. John just said it's already getting under their skin. They'll lose their 2/3. I mean, people are still emailing me, let's recall Jerry Brown. But he's only got a year and a half left anyway.
You know what? If I could get inside people's brains and do rewiring, you know what? Like disconnect the wire that shows any allegiance, any affection, any belief in politicians of either party. That is such a terrible flaw in the human brain because every once in a while, if they talk too much, you find out what they really think. It's like Hillary Clinton and deplorables.
That's right.
Jerry Brown and
freeloaders is like deplorables. That's a good one.
You can't imagine what they say behind closed doors.
That should be the rallying cry and on the T-shirts of people to recall.
Yeah.
Josh Newman. That it should say freeloaders to recall Newman.
Exactly. Freeloaders to recall Newman. Bunch of freeloaders, a bunch of deplorables who only want to keep their own money, who are already taxed at a worse rate than anywhere else in the nation.
Well, Greenhut put it great here. He goes, the heart of Brown's road tax argument is that users aren't paying enough to maintain them, even though our transportation tax rates are among the highest in the nation. That argument might work if California's tax rates were low. Its transportation agencies weren't tolerable if they were tolerably efficient, and its welfare programs more modest. But as usual, it comes down to Democratic legislative priorities. Brown and the legislature always seem to hold infrastructure hostage. They refuse to spend sufficiently on it during the budget process or to reform a California Department of Transportation filled with waste and excess employees or turn to outsourcing or other money-stretching efforts. Then they spend more money on expanded social programs. Then they blame tax-paying road users for being freeloaders. There it is.
That paragraph says everything. That we should cut that out. That is the
crux of this, right? Yeah. That's it. That's the whole argument against Jerry Brown and for doing this. I'm glad he used that word, as odd as it is, but it does sum up his thinking of you out there that pay all the taxes. The people that are on Medi-Cal, they're not freeloaders.
We found out
you've got to support them, and if you don't, you're the freeloader.
We found out this week they're going to spend $30 million this year. $30 million providing lawyers for illegal immigrants who may be deported.
They're doubling the money.
$30 million of your tax dollars. Think how many hours you put in. Think how much money you pay in every tax imaginable: income, property, sales, gas, car tax. And they take $30 million out of that and they give it to lawyers to represent illegal aliens that the government has identified for deportation. Suddenly, California is stepping in and taking $30 million of your money to protect the illegal immigrants that the feds say ought to go. Listen to some more stuff from Steve Greenhut. San Jose police sergeant, $552,000 compensation package. Oakland city engineer, he quadrupled his salary by racking up $300,000 in overtime last year. 6 police and fire officials who walked away with $1 million payout on top of their already generous pensions. Government workers and politicians have driven the state's pension system to $1 trillion of unfunded liabilities, debt. We owe $1 trillion to government workers for their pensions. That $1 trillion does not exist right now. But we're on the hook for it. $1 trillion for government workers. And then they come and they say, you're a freeloader because you don't want to pay more in gas tax for the roads. And the bill that they passed already carves 40% away from the roads. 40% of this money will not go to the roads. Probably most of it won't go to the roads by the end of it. Can you believe that? Can you believe there are people walking around with multi-million-dollar payouts, that we owe $1 trillion in pension money, that we're spending $30 million on legal help for illegal aliens? And then they call us freeloaders? Freeloaders. And by the way, you're a freeloader even if you didn't vote for Trump. If somehow, for any reason, you want to hold on to your own money that you earned, you are a freeloader. Josh Newman should just be the beginning of this. I can't imagine why anybody is sitting around and putting up with this nonsense for even one more minute.
I mean, Greenhut is right. He mentions that the state's unfunded pension liabilities have reached $1 trillion based on some credible estimates. And believe it or not, and this is a good side story to this, Jerry Brown, in his revised budget released last week, he wants to double the state's payments to the pension funds to help reduce the debt levels. But you know what he wants to do? He wants to borrow at low interest rates from the state's something called surplus money investment fund to help prepay the pension debt.
Sounds like money laundering.
Well, as Greenhut said, it's like trying to pay off one high-interest credit card with a lower-interest loan. It's cockamamie. In fact, there's a piece by Daniel Bornstein, who writes for the Bay Area News Group, who said this is really reckless and dangerous. Oakland tried this. They ended up losing a lot of money. I mean, basically, it's a gamble. You're saying, we're going to borrow money, and then if we can invest it and earn great returns, well, we'll have all this extra money, right? But it's like, wow, this is where we're at. I mean, because Greenhut writes further on in the story here that, meanwhile, the governor is proud of the rapid expansion of government-provided benefits, and the taxpayers continue to foot the bills for these absurd pensions that John just talked about before.
In fact,
when is someone going to do the real work?
He says we're freeloaders, but he says the past 4 budgets have significantly expanded government spending. These are Jerry Brown's words in his budget. The past 4 budgets have significantly expanded government spending. Expansion of health care coverage to undocumented children. Again, illegal immigrants. And the millions of Californians covered under the Federal Affordable Care Act. New preventive dental benefits and Medi-Cal. We're paying for more teeth than ever before for poor people. But we're freeloaders because we don't want to pay a gas tax. There's a new earned income tax credit. You know what that is? That's a welfare check. It means poor people don't have to pay taxes. In fact, a lot of poor people pay no taxes. They don't earn enough, but they still get a check anyway. And they came up with this phrase, earned income tax credit. You get that when you don't pay taxes. It's a welfare check with a fancy name to make it look more respectable. It's a million tricks here.
Anybody that looks objectively at the state of California realizes how bad it is. With more than 25% of the state at poverty level, Jerry Brown, as Greenhut writes, wants to continue to expand the public benefits base. Expansion of health care coverage to undocumented children, millions of Californians covered under the Federal Affordable Care Act. They want to put a new earned income tax credit, and he wants to add child care benefits to the mix.
So all the children that have been pouring into the state from foreign countries, many of them illegal, they are now wards of the state. We now have to pay for everything. And if we object, you're cold, you're heartless, you're deplorable, you're a freeloader. But they won't even fix the roads.
Even if
no, that's an extra charge there. You want roads fixed? This is an intolerable way to run a state. And he insults, not a thank you. You notice there's never any gratitude. Never. It's always, you're deplorable. You're a freeloader. Pay us more. Who do you think you are wanting to hold on to your own money that you worked for? It's not for you. It's not for your family. It's not for your dog. It's for us and what we decide to do with it.
What I also sense that really drives me crazy is, and I'm going to call it a resignation, but it seems like Jerry Brown and that crowd in Sacramento accepts the fact that we're a welfare state that's only going to grow. We just have to keep bleeding whatever's left of the taxpayers to fund it. let's accept the fact that, yeah, John's right. There's probably a lot of unauthorized people in California. But find a way so they no longer have to rely on government assistance. Grow the state's economy rather than figuring out ways to pay for more public assistance. That's all, and more pensions. That's all they seem to do.
That's what they want. A welfare state.
Oh, that relies on them?
Yes.
That's usually the grand theory.
That is.
That
is, if I was a politician.
That makes them powerful because everyone relies on them for largesse.
That's right. They love the power. And they love deciding who's going to get the benefits of their largesse.
But at what point do they run out of freeloading taxpayers who are going to foot the bill for all this?
Well, they haven't, right? People are paying it. There's no tax revolt. In fact, the taxpayers elected a 2/3 majority in the Assembly and the Senate. Why would you do that?
But
now, I know the real reason is because most people are just painfully ignorant and apathetic and bored and not understanding that 2/3 majority will cost them $100 billion. That's the real reason. But this woke them up now. And now we have a target. Now Josh Newman is our target. To remove him, we break their 2/3 majority, and then it's just the beginning. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to sign those petitions in Orange County and little part of L.A. and San Bernardino County and put Josh Newman on the ballot and recall him. It has to be done. This is so intrusive and abusive and obnoxious and wrong. And you're a freeloader. On top of it, you're a freeloader. You're a freeloader just for objecting. That's what's crazy. They got the damn thing passed, and then people start complaining. It's like, shut up, freeloader. Shut up. Give me money.
So that is the rallying word of this revolt against Sacramento and the gas and car tax and the effort to recall State Senator Josh Newman. Freeloaders. Remember it. That's what all you need to ignite yourself into action.
You're on the road right now? Freeloader. Freeloader as you go over those bumps, as your car gets bounced around in those potholes.
If you're a taxpayer and not a tax taker, you're a freeloader. The whole world is upside down. Check out the website, KFIAM640.com. A couple people email, where do I send the petitions? It's there. We have a link there. This is all being driven by Carl DeMaio's organization. They have all your answers. We're not running this recall, but we do have the links for the resource.
And there's no time to explain things on the air. See, that's what the website's for.
All right, right now it's your chance at $1,000.